morning, guys. This is going to be a follow-on from the pond building video we did last week, how not to build a pond, where I showed you my long pond and everything. It's probably a bit of an insight into our entire industry, really, that about what we're going to talk about, which is going to be the gravity systems compared to pump-fed systems. Now, it's not as easy as one might think. The stages that many of the koi only keepers in the UK, you would imagine that a lot of them people are gravity systems. A lot of the people watching me on my videos, they'll see that we fit mainly gravity systems, but that is pretty much a false look at the actual overall comparison and percentage wise between the two. Now, I have spoke to a few people regarding this. I spoke to Evolution Acro, I spoke to a friend of mine, Tony, who owns Swell UK, who are one of the biggest water garden companies in the UK. They're online, they sell everything. They sell everything, they sell all the big stuff as well, but the majority they sell is the garden products, which is great, lights, pumps, liners, whatever, and stuff like that, the filter systems for a garden pond. Now, last year was a little bit different because everybody seemed to be building ponds, but the future of the industry depends a lot on what we're going to talk about, really, because let me give you a bit of a stat from the people that I've spoke to, including some of the top people in the industry, not just in the koi industry, but in the water garden industry. We believe, on a conservative estimate, now get ready for this, that 95% of the UK ponds are pump fed, right? So, and then, you've got a very, very small amount which are gravity fed, which is something that we do. So we, as a company, Quality Nishikigoi, we're servicing that 5%. And the other dedicated koi dealers around the UK are also servicing that 5%, whether it's Nexus, whether it's drums, whether it's whatever, whatever filter system that you're going to put on there. That's what we're servicing, the 5% of the pond people in the UK. Now, it's easy, with a pump-fed system, that, there's nothing wrong with a pump-fed system. A pump-fed system done correctly will work, no problem. But it's not what we do, but I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. You can, I'll show you, well, I can't really show you at the moment, but I can tell you how to do a good pump-fed system. It's quite easy, and it also depends on on what they're doing. Are they going to be staying in the house long? Are they going to be, moving shortly? Are they, got kids? There's a lot of things that depend on what kind of pond you're going to build. It goes down to liners, fiberglass, stuff like that. So, but 95%. And like Tony up at Swell messaged me this morning, and he told me last year alone, he sold 50,000 pond liners, right, into the UK, 25,000 pond pumps into the UK. And that's just him. And there's other companies that are similar to Swell. So if you add them all up, you're probably talking excess of 500,000 pond liners were sold in the UK last year, right? And those pond liners are all going to be for pump-fed systems, right? So I often compare it to sort of like those 50,000 people that have built a liner pond. Now, that's music to my ears. I think that is a fantastic thing. It might not be immediate, right? But some of those people are going to fall in love with the pond, and then they're going to fall in love with fish, and then they're going to build another pond. They're going to build a pond out of concrete. They're going to build a different pond. They're going to come and have a look at different YouTube videos and the different ponds online and stuff like that, and they're going to say, look, I want that, and I'm going to build that. So if only a slight percentage of those people come up to our 5%, then I'm more than happy with that. And the way that I've been speaking to Tony, because at Swell they really keep a lot of data, and they revolve their business around the data that they've got. It's a professional, proper, how they do it, it just is different. They know what age groups are coming into it. They know, and they're absolutely buzzing for the next few years. They're saying now that the pond market is going to boom for I don't know how long, and he will be right, because he's not a daft person. He's very clever in the way he does things and the business that he's built. So, and I can totally believe it. So for my business is that I want, in a few years' time, I want to start seeing that come into our 5%. So us koi dealers that are just, we are servicing that 5%. That's what it's going to be. But it is quite an amazing stat. And like I said, you don't know people's circumstances, why they're doing it. A pump-fed pond can be built in a day, right? So you've got these landscape gardeners, you've got people doing work at houses and stuff like that. Someone says, oh, I've ripped that rose bush out there, I just want to hear some water. They can dig a hole there, whack a liner in it, whack a pump in it, it's done, and they can do that very fast, right? But whereas, if you're going to start installing bottom drains, return lines, all that, then it's going to take a long time, which it does, everybody, you can't deny that. I mean, I would imagine a lot of the people that are viewing this who've got ponds now, that they once had a pump-fed system, and that they've moved on from it, and they've gone on. Like I said, absolutely brilliant, and this is the people that we want in our industry. Now, a gravity system, for me, is more efficient for the filters, right? Because we go back to the old flow rate thing again. We can get more flow because we're pumping from a filter rather than to a filter. So whereas we're pumping from a filter, we can turn the water around, we can do anything we want with that pump on the way out. When you've got a pump in the pond, pumping up to a pond, into a filter, you can't really do that, because the flow rate is just going to gravity, and it's just going to pour in on the side to the side of the pond, which isn't great. And also we're looking at people buying high-end fish, and with those high-end fish, they want to develop those koi's potential to the very best way that they can, which is why a pump-fed system will work. It'll keep fish happy, it'll keep fish healthy, but you're not going to get the same growth. You're not going to get the same out of high-class koi. But again, it's such a niche. Selling high-end fish is such a tiny percentage of this market. It's not even on the radar. I don't even know what the stat is. I didn't check that. It's just come to my head now. But I would still imagine that Japanese koi coming into the UK around about the same percentage as the pump-fed to gravity fed. I would imagine it's less than 95% of the koi that come into the UK are probably from other countries, not Japan. And the Japanese market is such a tiny market coming into the UK. But this is what we're talking about, because a lot of the people that watch these videos are people who keep Japanese koi and people who've got gravity systems. But then, as well as that, we have to be aware that a lot of people are watching these videos now with a pump-fed system, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But it's just one of them things that we have to deal with within our industry. Now, Nexuses, for example, the majority of those will be sold as gravity-fed units, even though they come as pump-fed, but it's only 2 minutes to change them over. But whereas sort of like an easy pod, the majority of those will be sold to the pump-fed market. I think it's down to the size of the pond. I mean, people always come in and they say, oh, Tim, I've only got 1,000-gallon pond, so it's nothing like what you do. But if you actually realised that 1,000-gallon pond in the UK is a massive pond, right? So you're probably looking at an average of less than 500 litres is your average UK pond, right? Somebody's pond in the garden, somebody, this, that and the other. So when people come in and say, I've only got 1,000 gallon, you're thinking, that's a good sized pond. There's nothing wrong with 1,000-gallon pond. That's fine, but a lot of people will go, oh, have you only got 1,000 gallons? Which is the wrong way of looking at it, really. It's a bad way of looking at somebody who's trying to make the best out of space that they have, money that they've got. The budget's always a very important thing. People have got a lot of different things to spend money on nowadays. A pond isn't a priority. A pond is something if you've got a little bit of money left over and you've got want a bit of a luxury. You also have now, when I was talking to Evolution Aquaries, that they said that a lot of the Nexuses that they sell are to people that maybe have inherited a pond. So because the pond industry has been going for years and years and years, you're getting to a stage now where people will sell a house and there'll be a pond already there, right? But the people that got there, they might have took the equipment, right? So what they're going to do, you know, well, I don't know what to do now. Let's gonna, you know, and they're going to put they might put an easy pod on, they might put a Nex on it, they might put anything on it, right? It doesn't matter what they put on it, but they're going to have to put something on it. But they ain't going to dig that pond out, crack concrete, or whatever it is that they need to do, rip out liners or anything like that to put a bottom drain in. It's just because they're only just getting into it themselves. So of course they're going to just put a pump in there and run a pump-fed system. So there's a lot of different ways that people are using filtration systems. But anyway, so on a pump-fed system, the only thing that I would recommend to do on a pump-fed system is to do the pipe work in rigid, right? And also, even if you're building a brand new pond, you're building it with a liner. You could still put a little sump in the bottom of that pond, right, which you can house a pump, right, and then you can come out on rigid pipe. The reason why I say rigid pipe is because you're pumping from the bottom of the pond, you're pumping into a filter. Now, a downside of pump-fed systems is that you've got to have your water, you've got to have the filter higher than the water level, because the water's always coming out the bottom of the filter. So you're going to put a Nexus on there, it's going to look absolutely horrendous, right? So you don't want to do that. But anyway, if you've got no other choice, you can still box it in and stuff like that. What I would always recommend with a pump-fed system is a rigid pipe coming from the pump, right? So it's in the bottom of the water. You can actually run that pipe then into a nice corner and try and hide it in the corner, right? Now, the other reason I say is that a rigid pipe is because you could actually put a slightly bigger pump in the pond, and then what you can do, as you're coming out of the pond to go into the filter, you could put a little T-piece there with a valve, and then you could have a flow going into your pond. So you'd be getting some going through back into the pond from a flow on a T-piece, right? Because you can regulate that at your filter. So if you come out, T-piece, return line coming in, other pipe into your filter with a valve, you can slow down, the more you regulate the filter, the more water's going to come out of the return line, right? So you can actually make a nice flow. Now, yeah, not all the particles will go through the filter at one go, but it will do eventually. It'll all go through eventually. So, so if you're going to do a pump-fed system, you can do it right. You don't have to worry about it. If your only choice is to do a pump-fed system, then just do a pump-fed system, right? We sold a 320 down in London last year, and I remember getting there and unloading it, and it was a place in London, it was dead hard to park. Anyway, so we managed to get it out. And I went down to have a look at the pond because we had a UV with us, we had the Nexus, we had the auto kit and everything like that. So anyway, so we dropped it in and I looked at the pond. It was an in-ground 5,000 gallon pond, and it had sort of like a bay filter over the back, all pump fed. But it was a big pond. And then I looked in the pond and I couldn't see any, it was very, very dirty. It was very cloudy. You couldn't see the bottom. You could just see some shadows of some huge fish going around. And then the client came out and he said, "Oh, I'll show you the fish." And he came out with a pack of those cocktail sausages, like from Asda that you get, them little sausages. And I went, "What are you going to do here now?" So he started throwing these in, and these catfish, these massive big catfish, and all sorts of different fish. They had koi in there, they had everything. Kept coming in for these things. I'm thinking, man alive, it's going to need to be a good filter to get rid of, the waste from cocktail sausages. But these fish liked it. They've been in there for a long time. They were healthy. It was just that the water wasn't great. So anyway, we put the system on. Well, the customer put the system on. We didn't. We just dropped it off. So the customer put the system on, and then at that time last year, I was down in London every week. So anyway, I called in, had a few more bits to drop off, and looked in the pond, and it was lovely. And it wasn't crystal, but it was 100 times better than it was. Right now, that was last year. Now, he recently sent me a video of the fish. Crystal, no problem. It's just a pump-fed system, that's it. Right, so they can work, and they do work extremely well, as long as you put them on right. And as long as you put a little bit of thought behind, then you can run a nice pump-fed system. There's nothing stopping you doing a pump-fed system. You can still slope the bases of the pond. you can still put the pump in sort of like a little sump at the bottom of the pond, so the muck's going into the pump. It's only like a bottom drain, but it's like it's pumping out. Now, I have got a pump fed system. I've got on the bead on the new pond, that is as a pump pulling from the bottom drain. So in effect, it is a pump fed system, because the pump is going then into the filter. It's not on the other side of the filter, which is what the gravity systems are. Now, it's hard for me to explain, you know, a lot of these other people probably have posh diagrams and stuff like that, but not me. With a gravity fed system, your water in your filter is the same as what's in the pond. Your 4-inch line's coming into your filter, and then you're returning back. So if you switched all your pumps off and everything off, the water in the filter would stay the same level as the water in the pond. It's not going to overflow, it's not going to go down or anything like that, it just stays the same. It is part of the pond, right? And then, like I said, the good thing about it is that you can then pump from the filter, which is always going to be a better way of doing it, because not just for the filter, but because you can do more with the pump afterwards. So you can run the pump, you can run 2 returns, you can run 3 returns. You can tee off the pump and run a blade. You can tee off the pump, run a heater. You can tee off the pump, run a shower. You can tee off the pump, run anything you want. So that's why, for me, a gravity system will always be the best thing. But I just want you to think about that the majority of people, the large majority of people in this industry, in the koi, not in the koi, but in the fish industry, which is still one of the biggest hobbies in the world, right? We're all on pump fed. So, you know, people have to look at that, and you've got to realise also that products that come out for certain things are going to suit certain ponds other ways. So just because we don't like a certain thing that comes out, you're thinking, oh, I'm not going to be able to use that. Well, it might not be for you. You know, it's not for you. It's for other people. You know, you're not the single most important people in the industry, unfortunately. It's the, you know, for us as a shop, as a business, we have to look at the pump fed thing. Now, I said this to many people, is that if we decided to get rid of all our Japanese koi, if we got rid of all our nets and everything like that, we could quite easily here, right, bring in koi from other countries which are cheaper. We could sell cheaper end fish, we could sell goldfish, we could sell plants, we could sell pond liners, we could sell all the range of different style of pond filters and everything like that. And we would have a far more successful business than what we do now. Money-wise, everything, our business would be a lot better, but it's something that we don't want to do. We've always chose this path. We know, and with that, I won't be able to go to Japan, which is one of the reasons I do this job, and stuff like that. So, you know, but from a money aspect, it is much better. But we choose to do this. But you'll see a lot of koi dealers that do diversify into other things as well. You know, koi only places are very rare. You know, they will do other things as well, but we don't. We just do the koi and the pond and the koi pond equipment. We don't do anything else, apart from my own little Japanese Tamasaba goldfish, which is just a personal thing for me, really. I don't like selling them. But anyway, but yeah, so that's pretty much it. But, you know, you've got to look at both sides of the coin, and unfortunately, what we do, we're in the very, very small minority. So, you know, just have a think about that. But people, you know, don't be scared about building a pump fed system. Don't be put off by what anybody says or anything like that. You can still do a good system on a pump fed, and depending on your circumstances, your only choice might be to do a pump fed system. So don't let that stop you building a pond. Really don't, because, you know, I don't think anybody's on the first pond. I mean, most of our customers now are on the 3rd, 4th, 5th pond. You know, it's incredible. So but once the bug does get you, you can always build another one. You can always make the one that you've got better, you know, and stuff like that. So, but yeah, so that's the next one in line. I've got another few ideas anyway, and I probably will, after watching this back again, I'll probably come up with some more thoughts about it and stuff like that, but we'll get there. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and we will speak to you soon.